In 1993, three engineers met at a small diner in California with a bold idea. They believed graphics would become central to computing. At the time, that sounded almost ridiculous. Personal computers were slow, 3D graphics were primitive, and the market for advanced graphics chips barely existed. But those three engineers, Jensen Huang, Chris Malachowski, and Curtis Priem, founded a company anyway. They called it NVIDIA. Their first product failed. The NV1 graphics card was complicated, expensive, and poorly timed. The company nearly ran out of money. They had one last chance to survive. In 1999, NVIDIA launched the GeForce 256. They called it the world's first GPU, graphics processing unit. Instead of relying on the CPU to render graphics, this new chip specialized in handling visual computations. The difference was dramatic. Games became faster, graphics became smoother, 3D worlds became immersive. Gamers adopted it quickly. Developers optimized their software for it, and NVIDIA went public the same year. By the early 2000s, NVIDIA had become a leader in gaming graphics. But something much bigger was happening beneath the surface. GPUs weren't just good at rendering images, they were built to handle thousands of calculations at the same time. This is called parallel computing. While traditional CPUs process tasks one after another, GPUs process many tasks simultaneously. That architectural difference would change everything. In 2006, NVIDIA introduced CUDA, a platform that allowed developers to use GPUs for general-purpose computing. At first, very few people cared. But researchers did. Scientists began using GPUs for simulations. Universities used them for complex mathematical models. Engineers used them to accelerate data-heavy workloads. The groundwork for something massive was quietly being laid. Then came the breakthrough. In the early 2010s, deep learning began to accelerate. Neural networks required enormous computational power to train. CPUs were too slow, GPUs were perfect. AI researchers discovered that NVIDIA hardware could train neural networks dramatically faster than traditional processors. Suddenly, NVIDIA was no longer just a gaming company, it became essential to artificial intelligence. Tech giants began building massive data centers filled with NVIDIA GPUs. Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI. When generative AI tools like ChatGPT went global, demand for AI infrastructure exploded, and at the center of that infrastructure was NVIDIA. Revenue from data centers began surpassing revenue from gaming. Investors took notice. NVIDIA's stock surged. In 2023, the company crossed $1 trillion in market value. From near bankruptcy in the 1990s to one of the most valuable companies in the world. But this wasn't overnight success, it was the result of a long-term bet on parallel computing, and behind that vision was Jensen Huang. Unlike many Silicon Valley founders, Huang remained CEO from the beginning. He focused on architecture, on developer ecosystems, on long-term technological infrastructure. CUDA created a powerful advantage. Developers built tools and software around NVIDIA hardware, and once an ecosystem forms, it becomes difficult to replace. But NVIDIA's story isn't finished. Artificial intelligence models are growing larger and more complex. Data centers are expanding across the globe. Autonomous vehicles are still developing. Robotics is accelerating. Healthcare and scientific research increasingly depend on AI. All of it requires one thing: computational power. NVIDIA is now building next-generation architectures designed specifically for the AI era. More powerful chips, faster interconnects, integrated AI systems. But technology moves fast. Competitors are rising. Cloud companies are designing their own custom AI chips. New architectures are emerging. In technology, dominance is never permanent. The same industry that lifted NVIDIA to the top could eventually reshape the landscape again. The rise of NVIDIA wasn't luck, it was vision, timing, and decades of strategic investment. The question now is not whether AI will grow. It will. The real question is, will NVIDIA remain the engine of the AI revolution? Or will the next breakthrough come from somewhere unexpected? The future is still being written.